So I have, I'm really just going to do like an overview kind of interview to where I can get your voice on this project because we are going to be, sending out to our donors that we are funding your projects for 2024. And so we
Right.
really want to have your face with our organization as well and your voice saying, why are we donating to this cause? And, why is this important? So
Yeah.
I want to start with you just giving a short overview of what you guys did in Grenada. And what were the main findings from that trip, who was involved, and the impacts that you guys made for that trip.
Sure. So this is funny because the story is obviously always a little bit bigger. So in 2007 is when I got my start. Now in the sea turtle world, it's pretty small. It's pretty well connected. So we kind of need to start somewhere. Ocean Spirits in Grenada gave me my start, and it gave me so much more because it actually is how I bumped into my wife. So I bumped into my
Oh,
wife, exactly, which now we have a beautiful son that I couldn't imagine not having. So Ocean Spirits in Grenada started basically kind of everything, opened everything up. And so um, fast forward now, what is it, 16 years later, give or take. So I am sitting in England. I don't live in the US Virgin Islands anymore. And I obviously can't, I have to do sea turtle research. I just have to. And so I started a project here called the Hawksbill Project. That project specific goal is to assist projects with their goals as it relates to critically endangered hawksbill sea turtles. So that can be a variety of goals. For example, I think, well, I don't know if Corey told you this, but we are looking, or I would like to help an Italian woman who runs a project in Egypt, and she really wants to build a rehab facility because rehab is a huge part. But as it relates to Grenada specifically, because I know I've gotten way off topic here.
all
So
good.
yeah, so in 2022, the first goal was to raise about 12 to 14,000 to do the first in-water assessment of hawksbill sea turtles for the island of Carriacou. So um, so basically, you have islands all throughout the Caribbean. You have islands everywhere, and you don't know what you have in terms of sea turtles until you look. And so that's basically what we did in 2022 is we looked, which basically is a very simple way of saying we got in the water and we basically swam most of the island of Carriacou um, around it basically, and you're just counting turtles. And then from there, and the benefit is you have to start somewhere, right? So someone goes, we think we have hawksbill sea turtles. We see turtles here, we see turtles there. We don't know how many they have. So we actually went in, did an assessment, and it creates a baseline study at which then at least if you do nothing else, now you have some information. You have more than none. And then, but the beauty of it is that while we didn't see as many as we would have liked to have seen, we did narrow it down to a particular area in Carriacou where we saw the most, and we saw actually a pretty good number of them. And so what that did, and the beauty of that is that, okay, so you do that first year and it's frustrating and it's tiring and it's draining, and you're sitting there and you're going, I'm not seeing, I'm not seeing, I'm not seeing, I'm seeing, okay, I see him here. And so we kind of walk away and you go, that was exhausting. What do we get from it? And then the idea is we got a lot actually, because now we went back the second year and it allowed us to be much more focused in terms of where we were going to do things. And then from the second year, so first year, not that the goal isn't to collect data in terms of the actual turtles themselves, but the point is to make an assessment of the habitat as it relates to the turtles. So if you can catch them, great, to document them. If you can't, at least if you see them, you're recording at least an observation. But this time we went back, and so in year one, so 2022, it was about we caught, right? So we were able to actually hands-on document 7 turtles. This year it was 16. Um, and not only that, but the observations went from basically about 30 to about 60. So double the observations, more than double the captures. And so all of that really assists in building a picture of how the hawksbill population operates in Carriacou. So what kind of data are we collecting?
Yes. So, are you, is it size? Is it, male versus
Yes.
female? Things like that.
So the beauty of this is, so we'd like to get hands-on. So at the very least, observations are very important in science. It just lets you, if you have more observations in one place than the other, then you can kind of make an assessment. Okay, we're seeing them here, we're not seeing them in the other location. But in terms of the actual observations and data we want hands-on with these turtles, and then we are taking biometric data. So we're taking weight, we're taking all kinds of measurements, so length, width, and then from that we're taking genetic samples. Well, we should be blood, and then these animals are pit tags and flipper tags, so two forms of identification.
Those are the biometrics that you're getting. And you're gathering it. My next question is how you're gathering it, but you kind of answered that. You're going to go, you free dive down, you get these turtles up in the boat, and then you're measuring and taking blood samples and things like that.
Correct. That is absolutely correct. So we free dive for these. So now, because this is one of these very weird things where we are trying to collect this data, and we can do it by a variety of ways. So we can do this dip netting, we can do this rodeo, we can do this scuba capture, we can do this free diving. This particular project is a free diving project, so that's how we get the hands on the turtles.
Hey, awesome. That's so cool, by the way. Corey's told me a little bit about what you guys are doing, and it sounds crazy insane.
It's a lot of fun as well.
Yes. So when you're gathering this biometric data, what kind of impact does that have on conservation, and how far can that data go?
How like you're asking me how useful that data is?
Yes.
That data is incredibly important.
Okay.
So biometric data allows us. Let's go start the beginning. The biometric data is incredibly important because what you're doing again is you're creating a baseline study. So if you catch a turtle in Carriacou, Grenada, and you can say this turtle is this size at this weight, right? That's kind of one of the two things: is this size at this weight. Then it allows you not only to assess the turtle within the habitat itself, but you're using that to judge it against other turtles in other habitats, right? So, for example, if turtles weigh less than they should, perhaps compared to the rest of the Caribbean, you can say, okay, these turtles are a little underweight. Also, if they're overweight, you can say, okay, these turtles are big and fat and healthy, and they're finding a lot of food. They're in good shape, and that is an enormous part of the data collection, is just the actual health of the turtles.
Awesome.
And then as it relates to the genetic stuff, to all the blood, to all that information, again, it's just one more layer of information that we get in terms of the health of the animal, the possible sex of the animal, and then within that, because most people don't necessarily know this, but it's very unlikely the turtles that we are capturing in Carriacou are from Carriacou themselves. Their nesting habitat isn't big enough to support that population.
Okay.
And likewise, what happens more than not is sea turtles lay a nest, they hatch out of that nest, they then crawl into the ocean, they scatter about, and then they end up in a near shore reef habitat somewhere else. So not likely to be where they were born. And so what that means is when we get hands on them, the genetic data is what we're after. So if we can take skin and blood samples, we get their genetic information. And because Caribbean hawksbill, because sea turtle work in the Caribbean is quite possibly the most and best documented region in the world, we have a good idea that when we take their genetic information, we can then link it to their natal origin. So we can tell you where they're coming from.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah, I think so as well.
Yeah, no, this totally is. I have zero background in wildlife conservation and things like that. I'm in marketing, but this is all so cool to me. So I was speaking with Miles about
Yep.
things that we can do. How do we get more data? How do we raise money to get the most? And he mentioned satellite tags. So what are the benefits of using satellite tags versus what we're currently doing?
Well, so there's a couple answers to this. So the goal of my project that I started really is, so before we did any work in Carriacou, there was nothing. So there was what we call data deficient, which means there just isn't any data on a place. So more than likely, what happens then is then you get to these anecdotal stories where someone saw a turtle once, or people see turtles here, or I know I've seen turtles there, or and so you just don't know anything until you know something. So the first thing is what you want to do, and the point of the Hawksbill Project is to assist projects that are already established in hopefully expanding their range of what they do. And so that allows us to address these data deficient areas in terms of Carriacou, for example, or we just did one in St. John in the US Virgin Islands. And so all of this, again, it's just literally about, it's like an enormous puzzle, and you're just figuring out what pieces go where and how they do it. And so before, where you go, I don't know what this piece of puzzle is, and I don't know where it goes. Now we can sit there and say, okay, St. John, we know, Carriacou, we know. And so the idea is you keep doing this repetitively year after year, and you gain more and more information. As it relates to satellite tagging, that is an excellent tool, because one of the big things that we want to establish, again, because it's all about connectivity, is okay, these turtles aren't going to stay, more than likely they're not going to stay where they are forever. So these are highly migratory animals with, they have been in the ocean for millions of years. And so if they want to leave a habitat or change their habitat, or for whatever reason the habitat changes and they want to leave, they can do so. So the bottom line is we would like to be able to monitor that movement behavior when we aren't present, which is what a satellite tag allows to do. So, if a turtle is born in Barbados but lives in Antigua, it has to, or it can, travel through a number of other countries before it reaches back to Barbados. And so those countries may have different rules and laws and different approaches to conservation and sea turtles. So if we monitor them, we can see them actually move. Then we know more in terms of telling Barbados or Antigua that their turtles move. What's up, babe? He's at Praises. What's okay? Yeah, that was, I don't know. So satellite tags are very important. Habitat movement. We want to be able to know where these animals are coming, where they're going, and how they're spending their time.
Nice. Okay. And we have a rough idea of the pricing per tag. So the research is about $2,000 a tag. Is that what or is that dependent on what type you get and things like that?
It is absolutely dependent upon what you get. It's one of those things where if we were going to do this and I need to do this, it's just a matter of I haven't done it yet, and right now I'm trying to have a conversation with my side to then have a conversation with the side I need to have a conversation with. But it's basically like a tag can be anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500, and then what it is very frustrating, is just because you think you bought the tag and now you're good to go. It's actually the monitoring of the tag. So it's the recording of the data and the transmission of the data that actually costs you about as much. So if I had a ballpark it, finger in the air, I'd say probably I'd always wager higher than lower. So I'd probably say about 3,000.
What is your ideal set of trips for 2024? Like, where do you want to go?
So this is good. I'm expecting, let's go with 8. I'm going with 8 proposals for projects for 2024. And I don't necessarily have a top of the line, like I want to go here. to some extent, what the goal of the project that I've started is to support projects who exist perhaps on the fringe, have trouble fundraising. That fundraising isn't their strength, but the population of turtles are very important because they're data deficient or they're on the edge, that kind of thing. So I don't have a preferred project, but what I can tell you is that if a project is already set up, the infrastructure is already there, and so it makes it easier for us to support them in terms of they're already established, they know what they're doing, they know where to go, they know all the locals, they know all the people. Then we can just go, okay, great, we're going to work together, we're going to give you the money, we're going to show up, you're going to logistically plan it all, and then we're going to put that all together and do it together over the course of 2 weeks in 2024. That makes things much simpler. So, for example, because I'd be surprised if Miles didn't say anything to you, but so Okinawa, Japan is high on my list because they have they fit all the credentials. They fit all the requirements of all the things that I'm looking for. So they're eager. They want an in-water project to start doing turtle work. They have Hawksbill sea turtles, which nobody knows anything about. And again, on the end, fringe, they're not even really counted in the Western Pacific Hawksbill regional entity. They're not even really counted, which is insane to me, but they aren't. But then you go with Honduras is also very high because I've been talking to the gentleman who does work in Honduras. The infrastructure's there. He's got his stuff together. Basically the logistics of it would be much simpler and much greater, much easier to do. However, this being said, if Egypt, we're talking to a project on the Red Sea, if Egypt were to come in and say, if they were to kind of say, look, boom, this is, A+ material, that I wouldn't go, okay, maybe we need to do Egypt. That's kind of what it is. But because these questions you're asking are, first of all, you're answering great. You're asking great questions. I'm going off on just everywhere.
It's okay. All the information is good information.
Yeah. No. But so we did one project in 2022. That was Karaku the first year. We did 2 projects in 2023 in St. John and Karaku. 2024's goal is 3 projects. So we don't have to, these projects, I can tell you, are difficult for a variety of reasons, whether it's, the timing, the coordination, the staff, the crew, the time, the weather, the boat, the materials, everything. It's just, they're difficult, right? So when I finished, because I basically planned St. John for 2023. When I got back from St. John, I was literally just lying on my floor dead. It was absolutely done, wiped. So the point is 3 projects in 2024 is kind of what is the minimum of what I'd like to do. I'd like to add 1 more project. And then that goes with the idea that, and I don't know if Corey told you this, but basically is our goal is not to set up shop forever in a place. Our goal is to get in, assist the project that's local with what they want to do, and then we're off to help somebody else. What I've learned through this, and this is so funny to me, is that, and again, this is really just, there are so many projects, so many good projects, good people looking for money, and that's just always the finite issue, is how much money do you need to accomplish what you need to do. And so I've talked to Egypt and the Red Sea, Montserrat in the Caribbean. I've talked to the Maldives, Okinawa, French Polynesia, down in Tahiti. So all of these projects they're good people who want to do really good work, and the last thing they need is, unfortunately, the most important thing, which is money. And so if we have a chance, I would love to. I mean, I have not spoken to one project where I go, well, I don't want to support you. I've literally gone, I would love to support all of you, which is why really 3 years, and then hopefully what I would love to do as well is a transitional project year a little bit, where, for example, Karaku's year 3 coming up, there's going to be a conversation of, This is the last year. How can we help you go forward? And you can do this because you're the local entity. How do we help you, year 4, year 5, year 6, year 7? We will help you as much as we can. What do you need?